Hello, and a warm welcome from the Career Service at Imperial College London. This short talk is designed to give you an overview of what types of interview you may expect, typical interview questions and how to prepare, and finally, some of the resources and support you can access as an Imperial College London student. So, you have an interview coming up. What do you need to do to prepare? You may have to take part in a number of different types of interview. Typically, an initial screening call may be delivered by telephone. These can be between 15 to 45 minutes long and are a good initial way for the organisation to check how well you actually meet the job description and how motivated and keen you are to continue with the application for this role. If you're successful with a telephone interview, you're then likely to move on to the pre-recorded video interview stage. This is incredibly popular with graduate recruiters and involves you answering a short selection of preset questions. You record your answers to the questions and typically have between 1 or 2 minutes to prepare and up to 2 minutes usually to deliver your answer. In some cases, you may be assessed by software. In other cases, you might be luckier and assessed directly by a human. Whatever happens, the top performing candidates will then be moved on to the more traditional face-to-face interview. This may happen in person, but as is increasingly likely, it's going to take place online, and typically online interviews are undertaken via Zoom or Teams or Skype. You may have a panel interview, it may be a one-to-one interview, and it's quite likely that you will be answering a set of questions focusing on your motivation, your competency, your strengths, and your understanding of current challenges and opportunities for that role or organisation. Some of you, as part of the process, may also have to undertake group-based interview selection activities. Typically, these happen at assessment centres and may undertake group work or presentations, or you might have to undertake a business case study. We have more information about assessment centres and case studies on the Imperial College webpage. If you do have a telephone, pre-recorded video or online interview, you need to prepare in exactly the same way as you would do for an in-person interview. It's important, I think, to visualise and, if possible, practice answering your questions and get used to giving short and concise answers within a 1 to 2 minute framework. We also suggest that you record yourself, usually on a mobile, or perhaps if you're able to record yourself on the laptop or using the camera that you would be doing for your pre-recorded or online interview. This is so you can check that your camera setup is correct, that the lighting is good. That's especially important for the pre-recorded video interviews if you're assessed by the software. And think about your body language and how you might come across on screen. Ensure you face on to the camera because it may be difficult for panel interviews for you to give eye-to-eye contact with every member of the interview panel. For all online interviews or telephone interviews, you must make sure that you are in an uninterrupted space. Dress smartly for the pre-recorded and online interviews if you think this is likely to be for the job. And make sure that there's no clutter or anything distracting in your background, like a messy bed or posters on the wall that are loud and bright. Try and get the emphasis to focus on you and your response. A typical pre-recorded interview question might be something like this. Give an example of a time when you've shown initiative to solve a difficult situation. So you might have a maximum of 2 minutes to give your answer, and it will tell you the preparation time that you have before you need to speak. Usually you'll get the opportunity to re-record your answer, but there are limited opportunities for this, so don't rely on it, and that's why it's a good idea to practice some of these questions in advance. Generally though, we'd say that effective interview preparation requires going back over all your documents and previous research. Be very thorough with your skills audit that I'm sure you would have completed from some of the earlier talks and information. Be really clear on your CV What did you put? How did you phrase it? Go back to the original job description. You should have saved this somewhere so that you can pick it up again when the interview happens. So what are the keywords in the advert? Have you researched perhaps similar roles at other organisations so you're clear about what's special about this role? Have you gone back to the research that you originally did on that organisation? Has anything changed? Have you looked at updated things like Marketline Advantage or The Economist? What's going on? And be very clear with the practical details. Have you responded with a positive reply to the email? Do you know what you're going to wear? If you have to get there in person, have you worked out the logistics? Are you clear about how you'd get there and the time frame that might be involved with that? To refresh yourself with some of the research that you've done, we think the Prospects website is a really helpful resource. It has information both on sector industries and on occupations, which will give you a general overview and perhaps links to any relevant professional bodies to help you research and maybe network if possible before the interview. The Imperial College Library gives you access to Marketline Advantage, which is a brilliant resource for looking at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats, how your organisation has been in the news, or if you're going for something that's kind of like a smaller boutique company, you might look at the big players on Marketline Advantage and think to yourself, what's special and interesting about the organisation I'm going for? Are its strengths the larger competition's weaknesses? How does it fit into the industry? Also, we definitely suggest keeping up to date with the news that's going on, as in a number of interviews, students have been asked to comment on news stories and how that particularly affects the industry or organisation that they're working for. And we do say make sure that you do all of this research and go back over it, because the top candidates for the most competitive positions will certainly be making use of all these resources. So what's likely to come up at interview? Well, when you're thinking about preparing for interview questions, a good place to start is the motivational questions. So we know that they're likely to ask you why you've applied for this role. You might have to explain how your degree or your extracurricular activities match what they're looking for, why you're particularly interested in that organisation, how it fits into your overall career plans, and why this is the right choice for you. So there's quite a few things that you can jot down some answers for in preparation. Competency-based questions focus on what you can do. So it's about explaining the skills or behaviours that you've shown in the past and perhaps reflecting on how you might use them in the current role you're going for. A typical competency-based question could be something along the lines of, give an example of when you've had to optimise a process. Strength-based interview questions are designed to pick up what energises you and what you'd enjoy doing as part of the role. So they will look at some of the job description. They might ask how you fit in with that in terms of what you like, what you'd enjoy, what you're most looking forward to. And they unpick what it is that really drives you. It's harder to prepare for strengths-based interviews, and indeed a lot of companies won't expect you to. They're looking for your authentic, genuine answers. So a typical strengths-based question could be, what types of activities in your degree have you enjoyed doing? Technical and commercial questions are designed to check that you have the right level of skill set for the role. So you could be looking at data, you could be analysing graphs, you may be asked to talk through how you'd approach an experiment. You may have to do some problem solving with the interviewers. And a typical commercial question might be, tell us about a major recent development in our industry. Why is this so important for us? There are plenty more examples of interview questions and how you could approach them on the interview section of the Careers website. So do have a look at that for some guidance. When you're thinking about competency-based questions though, a really good approach is the STAR technique. So think about the situation. How might you summarise that in 1 or 2 sentences? What tasks did you have to do? So what was the purpose of this example? Again, your task should be about 1 or 2 sentences. Situation and task shouldn't be the full explanation for this story. It's action, which you should spend about 50 to 60% of your time explaining. What did you do? How did you complete the task? How did you achieve the goal or gain a satisfactory outcome? And then the result, can you quantify it? Employers like that, and also maybe reflect, what did you learn? How might you approach things differently? Or how might this example be relevant to your behaviour working for this organisation? So think carefully about the competency-based questions in the STAR technique, but I think what's very important is don't over-rehearse your answers. Try and make them as fresh sounding as possible. So, further support. How can we help you at the Imperial College? So, if you do have a pre-recorded interview coming up, or actually you just want to see how you might look and practice a few questions, then do access Shortlist Me. There are some set interview questions on there, and you'll get feedback on how you performed, and also you can then reflect and make notes for yourself on how you might do things differently. So this is software, so it's not done by a human being, but it will give you examples of how your work could be assessed and judged. The interview section on the Imperial College webpage has a lot of useful resources and links for you. You may also be interested in coming to some of our workshops where we talk about this in more depth. We run these not only as part of the careers service or with the graduate school or the postdoc and fellow centre, but often we have employers that come in and deliver skills workshops linked to interviews and employability. If you do have an interview coming up and you would like a mock interview, then contact us at careers@imperial.ac.uk to book a 40-minute practice before the real thing. I hope this short talk has given you a little bit of an overview and an insight into some of the support available, and I wish you all the best with any interviews coming up. In the meantime, do contact us at careers@imperial.ac.uk for mock interviews or information about further interview sessions. Thank you.